Hi, dear friends. So in this lesson, we will learn the overriding and overloading methods in OOP. So let's give it a go. And this is what we've learned so far about object-oriented programming. And I will share with you what we have learned in this table in every lesson until the end of our topic. So have a look at that, and let's continue our lesson. So in Python, if we decide to redefine the methods that we inherit in our class with the same name, then the method we created will work, right? Not the inherited method. Make sense? So this is called the override method in OOP. So we can always override the parent class methods. Also, we can define methods and functions specific to our subclasses at any time. For example, instead of using the init method of the teacher class, we can override the init method in headmaster class. Okay, so in this way, we can add extra attributes to the headmaster class. So let's do it, and you'll see what I mean. Class, headmaster, teacher, init, self, name, surname, profession, classes, gender, birth date. So now we define a new attribute named addEvent to the headmaster class. So this attribute specifies whether it is authorized to add activity, and it'll get true or false. Self.name equals name, self.surname equals surname, self.addEvent equals addEvent. Def change class, self new class, print changing class. Self.classes equals new class. Now when this code runs, the headmaster class init function will override. So let's create an object named headmaster3. Headmaster3. Headmaster, William, Doe. Headmaster, none, male, 09091970, true. Let's override the showInfo method. So first we'll look at the content of the teacher class. Now let's override the headmaster class showInfo. Def showInfo self. Print headmaster's information. This is the attribute we just added, addEvent, self.addEvent. And at this point, we override it. Now let's create again the last object and check the info. Headmaster3.showInfo. And that's it. We successfully completed the overriding process. How cool is that? So now let's talk about overloading. So these methods in OOP are the methods that are not specifically called by us, but they do belong to every class. So most of them are defined by Python by default, even if we don't define them. However, we do need to define some of these methods specifically. And the init method, we've seen that before, remember? That's an example of these methods that we have to define ourselves. So what we'll do here is we'll try to learn how to define these methods. So first, we'll define a new class named car, and let's give an attribute. Class car. Pass. So now let's create an object named car1 equals car. Now we can examine the overloading methods one by one with the help of our car class. For example, if we define the init function by ourselves, then our own init function will work. Class car, def init, self, brand, model, fuel, color, year, transmission. Print, creating car object. Self.brand equals brand. Self.model equals model. Self.fuel equals fuel. Self.color equals color. Self.year equals year. Self.transmission equals transmission. Now we can create a car object with attributes. Car2 equals car Alpha Romeo Julia petrol red 2017 manual. Normally when you use the print function, print car2, Python returns to us this. However, if we define the str or string method ourselves, we will now be able to write the contents of the car more clearly on the screen. So come on, let me show you. Def str self. Now I'm going to use one of the editorial methods in Python. If you want, you can research that on the internet. It's more than not worth it to go into it here, but just watch what I do. Return, model, and brand, and fuel, and color, and year, and transmission. Dot format, self.brand, self.fuel, self.color, self.year, self.transmission. Now we'll try to create our object again and print it. Print car2. And there you go, it's working well. Now the del method is the method that is executed when we delete an object in Python with the keyword del. Also, we can add extra features by defining this method ourselves. So let's go ahead and do it. So now let's define it. Self. Print. Deleting car object. And let's define another object named car3. Bentley Brooklands Petrol Black 1997 Automatic. And now let's check the info. So now let's delete the object. We deleted our object. Cool, so let's control it. This is actually, we can see if it's deleted or not. So print car3. And that's it. We can tell our method's working. Cool. So in this lesson, we have learned the concept of override and overload in Python. So with these concepts, the inheritance in object-oriented programming is complete. Cool. See you next lesson. Have a nice day.